Well, good morning. Welcome to this video. I just wanted to talk about Jacob's ladder in this video and interdimensional shifts and things of that nature relative to your own spiritual process, your own spiritual transformation. Spiritual transformation, in short, is a process wherein on the human level, on the experience of the human level that we find ourselves in, we transition from an understanding of ourselves as being Homo sapien to God mind or Homo illumina, as in my case, having had an experience of direct union with God and other experiences in other dimensions, all naturally, without drugs, without anything other than prayer and meditation. Jacob's ladder, or the dream of Jacob's ladder, being the staircase leading to heaven, which is in the book of Genesis. In my mind has formed many different, or I have formed many different perspectives about that idea, about that dreaming of the ladder leading to heaven over the years. Prior to several years ago, probably about 6 years ago now, having met beings of a completely different nature, blue in colour and much taller than myself and translucent with the little points of light or orbs of light throughout their bodies. Prior to that meeting, I was strictly a Christian-oriented, I guess, or spiritually oriented, or Course in Miracles oriented kind of soul who, I guess if you had asked me prior to that, I would have given you the angels and harps and trumpets sort of version of ascending from the physical dimension, swing low, sweet chariot, and all of that sort of stuff. But there was quite a shock to my system when I realized that, of course, everything being a vibration, everything being a harmonic of life presenting itself through the illusion of form, of course there would be other versions, I guess, of life, other ideas about life that have a higher resonance, a higher frequency than is possible to attain on Earth through the process of transformational spirituality. I'm struggling for words here. You can only get so far, put it that way. Earth, the third dimension, it's where you have to come in the journey of the soul to experience direct union with God. It's the lowest and most dense point of the journey. And if you look at it as going down a ladder to the bottom, at the bottom is the doorway, I guess, or it's like a little hatch in the mind, where through meditation and prayer at this point you can both experience the memory of God, remembering what you are as part of that, and also begin your journey back up the ladder, having remembered, including in the world, the universe, and everything as you go, as nothing more than the projection of your mind, or an outward picturing of mind as a whole in form at this level. So, and I want to try and reference the activity that's going on in the world at the moment as an outward picturing of something that I am both familiar with and not familiar with at the same time. So in my own journey, I've had experiences of 4 different dimensions, and I'm going to include birds. I'm going to include this one as one of them, which means this dimension and 3 others, right? It's foolish to dismiss this dimensional experience as a profound and incredible experience, because it is. And if you're taking your earthly life for granted, then you're missing what it's offering you. But that too is part of the process of awakening. Familiarity breeds contempt, contempt breeds questioning, questioning breeds awakening. Those experiences that I've had, and I'll bracket them as 3 other experiences, 3 other different dimensions. The most profound, obviously, was the memory of God, the realization of God, where I was standing in a room full of people all of a sudden because of a decision I'd made in my mind, and I didn't know why I was there. I was guided there by a voice, but because of a decision in my mind, not to judge what was going on, which seemed quite strange to me at the time, they all disappeared. Then the room disappeared and I could see outside, and then my body and the whole world disappeared, and I found myself back in eternity. This is the very short version of that happening, where God told me that nothing exists. And A Course in Miracles will tell you that all form is illusion. Right? So in a sense, it doesn't exist. The houses, the trees, the stars, the sky, the planets, the earths, the oceans don't exist. It's just a dream, right? You are in eternity now, dreaming this whole thing, having a dream of watching me on this video, right? Step it down a little bit from that experience as far as a vibration goes, and I had an experience of meeting the beings or the guides, I guess, that were overseeing I know it was my personal transformation, and possibly I suspect the transformation of many, many others, perhaps 144,000 souls, as it says in the Bible. But that came about because of an ongoing, prevalent awareness I had of, at a certain point in my transformation, of being watched, of being overseen. I couldn't shake it. And so I set up a little ritual for myself in the healing room, in the session room at the meditation center where I was when there was no one else around. Put some chairs in a circle, a dozen chairs, and invited those beings, consciously, verbally, etc., invited those beings to make themselves known to me, because I wanted to know. I wanted to have this sort of progressive and ongoing connection that made more sense of things that I was feeling and sensing and was happening to me at that time. That night, or possibly the night after, I don't really recall exactly now, but I was in bed watching my little tiny 12-volt television on the bedside, and I reached out to turn it off, and all of a sudden a small orb, a small golden shimmering, translucent perhaps, orb of light, not radiating light, but just glowing like a ping pong ball, about the size of a ping pong ball, appeared at about 2 meters away from me, hovering in midair. Just appeared, just suddenly was there. And I looked at it without any feeling of concern. I wasn't scared, I wasn't upset or nothing, didn't have any kind of feeling about it. And all of a sudden it came over to me whilst I was sitting up in bed. And as it came closer to me, it expanded and engulfed me, is the only way I know how to, that feels right to talk about it, engulfed me. And I found myself in a different dimension, in another place where I was aware of beings all around me in a circle, without bodies, without any form whatsoever, but I was aware of them, and like very much the way that people feel like in their homes, you know, and they say, oh, I feel like there's somebody in the room here watching me, and you turn around, there's no one there. But in this case, there was about a dozen beings there. I had no body, I had no vessel, I was pure mind, but at the same time I was aware of a sense of myself beyond that. I can't really talk about that. Don't know how to talk about that. But one of them, and it was like being in an amphitheater, and they were all slightly above me and looking down at me as if I was a subject for study, and which is very much how I felt most of the time on Earth, you know. And one of them came down to me and like floated down. I don't know how to describe that because there was no bodily association with the floating sensation, but I was aware of what was happening, and the two of us went around the circle, which was fairly big, as big as an auditorium, I guess. And I was shown all of the beings that were sitting there, or residing there, or whatever they were doing there. And then there was a gap, and I noticed the gap. Mentally, I noticed the gap. And the one that was guiding me, which now that I'm making this video, I suspect was my teacher, Ted, actually. But as I looked up at the gap, and obviously in mind, it registered to this particular one that I was curious about the gap. And I was told, this is where your teacher Ted sits. And Ted was my teacher on Earth in those days, who has since left the dimension here and passed on to whatever is next for himself. And that was that. And I actually, the next day, or actually that night, I think, I raced over to Ted's cabin at the end of the community there, and knocked on his door, and I told him what had happened. He said something like, "That's cool." He was sort of nonchalant about it. He said, "That's cool." He said, "You probably just got your assignment," and which I did, but I won't get into that in this particular video. And then on another dimensional level, there was the blue people who, in more recent videos about my experiences here on Earth, you can find those and you can find all the full-length videos about these happenings in my video library. But the blue people appeared to me as a result of... Oh, what's going on here? Got a bee or something buzzing around. The blue people appeared to me as a result of a constant reading in the Course in Miracles. I've had this several times, and many people who read the Course will have the same experiences and tell you the same thing, that sometimes they just open up at the same page again and again, and they don't really know why. I remember having that experience with the Fear of Redemption in the Blue Book published by Foundation for Inner Peace, where I would read that first line in the Fear of Redemption again and again. You may wonder why it is so important or so crucial that you look upon your anger and realize its full extent. And that's another story, and that's in my videos as well. And this line in particular was something, I don't recall it exactly, but it was... look up and see your name written amongst the stars. And at that time I was living out in the country, no neighbours, etc. I would often walk out in the middle of the night for a pee on my front lawn and I was just surrounded by bush, and I would look up and enjoy the stars while I was there. And because I'd been constantly opening at this page, I would look up and I would look for my name amongst the stars, and I could never see anything. I didn't understand what this particular reference was about. And then after looking up amongst the stars at night for probably 3 weeks, every night I would go out, I had a lucid dream, which I woke up from in the morning completely shattered. And the dream was me naked in a very dark room, which I think was a UFO, a craft, some sort of thing, from what I can picture it and remember it as, with 3 or 4 of these blue beings, tall blue translucent beings, one of them speaking to me directly and the other 2 conversing amongst themselves, silently conversing in mind. There was one in the distance operating some sort of a console or sitting at some sort of a desk or something. And I was told, we'll come and get you when it's time. And I can't remember actually if it was we'll come and get you when it's time or when you're ready, which kind of infuriates me a bit that I can't remember exactly, but that's the case with revelation, quite a lot of the times you don't really recall the message in its full proportions, and there's this sort of clutching at straws because the ego is the master of recovery and will try to hide and try to obliterate any true kind of direction you get to maintain its control over the mind regarding proving the physical world real and keeping that as the status quo so that you don't go beyond it and abandon your allegiance to this dimensional reality, which I've done those 3 or 4 times, and like that have a new link now to another reality or another version of reality through the ability to open my mind at will, without the necessity for hours and hours of meditation, which I used to have to do, etc. I'm talking about these other realities, these other dimensions, as an idea of going back up Jacob's ladder. The last communication I've had 3, the second communication I had was with the blue people, was out on my lawn again. I was naked and having a pee and just looking up at the stars, and just out of my mouth it just popped out, are you there? And I was looking up at the sky, and 2 lights which I couldn't see before flashed on and went off directly above me, and then flashed on again and then went off. And I kind of got frozen to the spot, and I walked back inside in a very kind of stiff and frozen manner, like, I don't know if I was terrified or if I was shocked or whatever it was, but it definitely affected me. And the third communication I had was, again, a lucid dream. I think it was a lucid dream. Maybe it was telepathic. I really don't know. It was real. It was as real as me sitting here making this video as it was in those experiences. But the third one was a female blue being, and I say female, there's no genitalia, but I say female because of the energetic sense of the being that I got, who was crouched down in front of me and holding off to the side like this, a very small male, like an 8 to 10 year old would be the equivalent in the world, version, a body of another blue being like them. And she said to me, your new body is ready. And I woke up from that experience in my bed, sitting bolt upright, I think, and I remember the takeaway that I had from that was feeling the love from her, feeling the love from her, that I was wanted and I was valued, and beyond any love I've ever felt in this world. And that's current up to this day, you know, like, I mean, the love of God in the first experience, the eternal realm experience, that you cannot speak. That love is so beyond you cannot speak of it. But I guess going up the ladder, the love increases as the vibration of the mind and the heart together increase, and purpose becomes more unified in a holistic or an altruistic sense with not only yourself in the world as one with all things, but in a universal and interdimensional sense as well. And I'm just clutching at straws here. A lot of this is my own personal takeaway, or all of it really is my own personal takeaway from things collaborated with the teachings of A Course in Miracles. But the nature of humanity as a species evolving and raising up in its own consciousness and its own awareness and understanding of itself, and coming to a higher plane or a higher degree of understanding, is something that is now beginning to affect the whole universe, right? As a tipping point. I know that if you're someone who's been on many different channels, you'll hear about the Great Awakening this, the Great Awakening that, and all sorts of things, and messages from Pleiadians and Arcturians and whatever. And I believe these blue beings to be Arcturians. I'm probably wrong about that, but I'm prepared to be wrong about everything at this stage. So the nature of human consciousness is that it evolves, is that it changes, right? That change, given guidance and given the idea of the mustard seed, that it grows, and that, you know, heaven is like that, and you plant a little seed and it grows into a tree, and other beings and other things come and land in that tree and make their homes there, etc. Well, individually and collectively, that's what's occurring across the planet. And even as our thoughts of separation extend to separation thoughts of others, right? Because everything's a frequency, everything is an idea of, let's say, hatred or fear or anything like that. If I'm living from those ideas, they affect everyone and everything around me. Perhaps subliminally, perhaps in a very obvious way. If you're an angry sort of person, you realize you don't have many friends and people are always telling you to relax and all that sort of thing. If you're a very loving person and a very peaceful person, your friends will be of a different nature, and the associations that you have in the world will be of a very different nature. You may even find yourself, like me, very much singular in the world experience, without the idea of friends and without the idea of people around me supporting me, etc., in my state of mind, as I've gone beyond personally a lot of things, and I've references for going beyond those sorts of levels and things are taken directly from the Course. I now see that there are no such thing as friends, that there is only self, there is only I, and everything is reflective of that God mind or Christ mind through this avatar for me as Christ mind, witnessing to a specific element or a specific faction of the transformation through this avatar, doing what needs to be done. And so I'm looking at the idea then of humanity being able to now perhaps accept that there are higher levels of conscious association, still dream, still illusion, but as we go back up the ladder, as humanity takes a step up Jacob's ladder towards, you know, it's like I'm bringing my world with me. So the nature of transformation is going from fear to love, right? And as the vibration raises, as your personal vibration raises, you naturally become more loving, naturally become more peaceful. Imagine then the nature of beings and societies and existences in other dimensions and other realms that are operating at a much higher frequency than this. Pardon me. And some of you may have watched the last video that I just made about the 2 precepts of transformation, which was cool. And then at the end, because I've been following the drones, they're not drones, but because I've been following the lights in the sky over the United States and now England and Germany and China and now Russia, I believe, perhaps, there's a kind of an excitement in me. There's part of me that hopes that this isn't just some other global conspiracy, some nonsense, whatever. But I've been feeling it for a while now that something huge is about to happen. And when you get on these other sites about awakening, they're always saying, something huge is coming. This is it. You know, this is the thing, the threshold, the nexus point. And I would rather stay in the here and the now of this experience, being human, just making this video, as garden variety video, than get carried away with all of that stuff. But what seems to be being presented, although it has no meaning other than that which I give it, if I were to look at it as a witness, I would see it as a step up for humanity. if it is something of a non-terrestrial nature, I would see it as a step up for humanity, and in a global sense, because my mind affects everything, including the whole world, the Christ mind awakening. What should it look like? You know, why wouldn't it look like being visited or being guided from this point on by higher intelligences, by those intelligences that have gone beyond the need to interact from fearful premises to more loving premises, where love and healing, I guess, still would have to be part of it, but love and healing are the foundation stones of communication. We do have that on earth, we just choose not to use it. We choose to fall back on our old fearful and forceful and vengeful, egotistic sort of ways, because our minds, and I'm just talking generally, our minds are not open enough to embrace the idea of higher authority and have that be what it is of itself, without trying to reinterpret it in a way to suit our limited capacity to understand. So I don't want to get carried away with things. I mean, every time I've had a shift in consciousness, I do get carried away with it. It's extremely exciting and you want to tell everybody. But I have learned that my life, and I'm guessing there is millions of people out there similarly, but my life has been second to none, something quite extraordinary and biblical in nature in many parts, and hearing a voice from the sky, and sleeping on the mountain and meeting Jesus and the spirit of the four directions and all sorts of things, and having it just... I did write a book. I don't even remember everything in my own book now, but I wrote a book 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, and put it out, Truth from the Top Down by David Phare, Phare. I don't even know if it's still in circulation, but Truth from the Top Down. My life has been something quite bizarre, quite strange, quite different from the ordinary, and I know that there are a lot of people who would not be prepared to accept me at face value for what I talk about. That being said, however, there's things still above my pay grade that I can't talk about, and not that I wouldn't like to. But I think at this point in time, at this point in the human experience, in the vibrational relative environment that seems to be occurring around the world right now, I want to take advantage of however many people are watching this video to press the importance of extending the message of whatever seems to be occurring. Try to respond with love, try to respond with peace, try to respond with a sense of understanding that perhaps humankind is on the precipice of something really, truly amazing. I guess in another sense, however, having come down from eternity, let's say, as a vibrational reduction through that idea of Jacob's ladder, having come down to this place to realize God, it's probably no big deal to be going back up and to be having these experiences of divine nature. You know, it's just like, well, of course, you came down that ladder, you've got to go back up that ladder. What do you expect to encounter? But of course, in the human experience here, you have this memory wipe. You don't remember any of this stuff, so it's all brand new, it's all amazing, and you seem to encounter it as if it's for the first time. But of course, it isn't really. And but it just comes, it's like, oh yeah, of course, that makes sense. But it only makes sense relative to having a full grasp or a comprehensive grasp of the nature of the universal curriculum, which is presented through the teachings of A Course in Miracles, which has been on the planet now for about 50 years. I don't think I have anything more to say about all that. It is an exciting time to be alive. Even just the idea of the Course being here, you know, regardless of whether you've had profound experiences in other dimensions or not, or anything like that. But experience is the teacher, so you do want to be pushing for those experiences and praying for those experiences and asking for understanding through an experience that's not of this world, because experience is the teacher, and you're entitled to those experiences because you are divine. But anyway, I would encourage you to encourage others, and as much as possible to be at peace with the things that seems to be going on around you, whether that's non-terrestrial or whether it's domestic, whatever it is. Be at peace with it and learn from it, because there's an opportunity in everything for you to release the defenses of your ego self, which is the false self, and learn about your divine self in every encounter, in every moment that you have. That's what the world is for. The world was made as a place for man to undergo the transformation of his mind through realizing the power available to him in making choices. If those choices are cohesive and they all serve a single purpose, which is peace of mind, then all of the factors pertaining to the attainment of that peace of mind, according to the celestial and universal teachings that are advocating for it, must come into play at some point in your own experience. Otherwise, there would be no relativity to the curriculum that you would be able to associate with and reassure yourself with that something's actually happening. In our Zoom meetings, I know that something's actually happening. People tell me all the time they're undergoing shifts in consciousness, and they're having these realizations like pop, 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 and things are moving along at quite a fast speed now. And we're going to persist with that and continue with that in our Zoom meetings. And even though they're confronting, if you're not ready to be confronted, don't join in. If you want to sit in the shadows, that's your own choice to do so, and you'll get the results of that choice, which will be not getting the results of what we get the results of in our Zoom meetings, which is a higher form of education in a practical and applicable way, wherein you can see the results of the thinking of employing the new way of thinking, the new way of being with yourself and accepting yourself in this world as a divine being, despite that you may still be circumscribed by the nature of your avatar, as am I. And it's no big deal. The avatar serves the purpose of the Holy Spirit, which is healing, and in that it is healed accordingly and comes to its own natural point of redundancy when learning is completed, which I hope is soon. But anyway, that's it. I love you guys, and be at peace. Really be at peace, and try to see everything as an opportunity. It's either a blessing or a lesson. Blessing or a lesson. A blessing or a lesson. If you can't see the blessing in the situations and relationships that you're involved in, at work, at home, personally, etc., then it's a lesson. Learn from it. Step back. Ask within. What is this? What am I learning here? It's always going to be contingent on letting go, on surrendering, on forgiveness, etc., But you'll find that there are these sort of pivot points, or these way markers that you pass that bring to you experiences that validate the journey so far and validate the process so far and build your faith. Having a whole Course in Miracles teaching, a whole universal curriculum just as a conceptual understanding is abhorrent to me. It's like, what is the point of that? You have to be experienced in it. It has to have experience as the backing of the theoretics and the foundation of the principles of the Course, or it's pointless. You just become somebody whose head is full with another load of spiritual bunkum rather than worldly bunkum. Eventually, you let the Course go in its entirety as you become what it is, or as you return to what it is that you actually are as the Christ mind being expressed through the avatar. even if things are still above your pay grade. All right, I love you. Thank you. Peace.